He didn't think much of it at first. It was just a harmless little snack, something quick to satisfy the cravings before bed. A slice of cheese, maybe some crackers, or occasionally a small bowl of leftovers from dinner. Nothing greasy, nothing extreme, certainly nothing that would raise eyebrows at a doctor's office. It was comforting, familiar, and felt like a quiet moment of peace after a long, stressful day. For years, this late-night ritual was his way to wind down. The house was quiet, the lights were low, and the sound of the fridge door swinging open had almost become part of his bedtime routine. But what he didn't realize was that this simple act, so ordinary, so universal, was quietly sabotaging his heart. Not dramatically, not suddenly, but inch by inch, night after night. He wasn't overweight. His blood work had always been okay. He exercised when he could. Still, something was off. Some mornings, his heart would race before his feet even touched the floor. There were days when a flight of stairs left him more winded than it should have. He told himself it was just aging, just stress, just life. But deep inside, his body was trying to send a message, and it would take months of strange symptoms and a very unexpected doctor's visit to finally decode it. Because the truth is, what you eat before bed, and whether you eat at all, can quietly shape the fate of your heart. We're not just talking about cholesterol or sugar. We're talking about timing, blood flow, and how the body handles pressure in the most vulnerable hours of the day. He learned it the hard way, but what happened next could change the way you look at your bedtime plate forever. See, when you eat late, especially the wrong types of food, your heart doesn't get to rest. Instead, it works overtime. Your digestive system stays active, pulling blood away from the heart and toward the gut. Your insulin spikes, blood sugar fluctuates, and your body fights to balance it all while you sleep. But the real kicker? Your blood pressure might never dip the way it should at night. And for your heart, that nightly dip isn't optional. It's a chance to recover. Without it, the damage builds silently. He didn't know any of this. Most of us don't. After all, who warns you about a slice of cheese at 10 p.m.? No one tells you that a little protein before bed can raise your nocturnal blood pressure, that a salty bite can increase overnight water retention and strain the vascular system, that even healthy food at the wrong time can send your body into a state of quiet distress. And so he kept going, night after night, until the signs became louder. The fatigue in the morning wasn't normal. The pounding heart while brushing his teeth wasn't just anxiety. The restless sleep wasn't just poor habits. The body had been whispering for years. Now it was starting to shout. And still, he resisted, because habits, especially comforting ones, don't go quietly. It wasn't until a routine checkup turned into a cardiology referral that everything came crashing down. He had borderline high blood pressure. His nighttime heart rate, captured through a smartwatch, showed signs of sympathetic overdrive. His nervous system was never really off. And most revealing of all, his cardiologist asked just one question that unraveled it all. Do you eat anything before bed? The question stunned him. How could that matter? He wasn't eating junk food. He wasn't binging. It was just a few bites. But as the doctor explained, those few bites weren't giving his heart the peace it needed. They were keeping the engine running, right through the night. And in someone his age, with subtle vascular stiffness already in play, that meant compounded wear and tear. It wasn't about weight. It wasn't about calories. It was about pressure, literal, physical pressure on the arteries that never got a chance to relax. And so he stopped, just like that. One night, he closed the fridge, walked away, brushed his teeth early, told himself he'd just try it for a week. That week changed everything. The first thing he noticed was sleep. Deep, restful, uninterrupted sleep. Then came the mornings, lighter, calmer, more energetic. Within days, his blood pressure dropped by several points. Within weeks, his resting heart rate improved. But most importantly, he began to feel something he hadn't felt in years, ease. Not just in his chest or his breathing, but in his confidence, in the sense that he was finally giving his heart what it needed. Not a supplement, not a pill, just peace, just a break. And as he would later discover, he wasn't alone. Countless studies, hidden in plain sight, pointed to the same conclusion. Late-night eating disrupts circadian rhythm, impairs cardiovascular recovery, and increases long-term heart risk, especially in adults over 50. So why does no one talk about it? Maybe because it's uncomfortable, because food is emotional, because bedtime snacks are a cultural staple. But science doesn't care about our feelings. It speaks in data, in trends, in biological signals. And that science is now screaming. When you eat may be just as important as what you eat. And for your heart, nighttime is sacred. Every bite before bed can tilt the scale. He learned this not from a headline, not from a viral video, but from lived experience. He stopped eating before bed, and it helped. Dramatically, subtly, profoundly. And if you're over 50, struggling with fatigue, pressure spikes, or restless nights, it may be time to ask yourself the same question as Doctor asked him. What are you feeding your heart while you sleep? It wasn't junk food, not by any definition you find in a diet book. No burgers, no fries, no sugar-laced desserts. What he reached for every night, almost without thinking, was something so ordinary, so deceptively safe, that it rarely sparked concern. A slice of aged cheese, a few spoonfuls of leftover chicken, a couple of savory crackers with a smear of peanut butter. These were comfort foods, familiar and satisfying, the kind of things people often eat while watching late-night news or scrolling through their phones before turning off the lights. But here's the unsettling truth. What we thought was harmless turned out to be a silent threat, because it wasn't about calories or fat alone. It was about chemistry, timing, and how certain foods interact with the cardiovascular system when eaten at night. That cheese he loved, packed with sodium, which spikes blood pressure and causes fluid retention, especially dangerous during sleep, when the heart is supposed to slow down. The chicken, though lean, still required digestion that kept his system awake long after he fell asleep. And the peanut butter, high in fat and subtly stimulating, keeping stress hormones like cortisol from dropping to their restorative nighttime levels. Each bite, taken under the illusion of relaxation, was triggering a cascade of biological responses: elevated heart rate, constricted blood vessels, and increased nighttime blood pressure, turning his restful hours into a battleground for his heart. He never knew that nocturnal hypertension, a rise in blood pressure during sleep, is one of the most overlooked and deadly cardiovascular risks, or that late-night eating disrupts melatonin production, directly impairing the natural rhythm that tells the heart to slow down and repair. But perhaps most disturbing of all was this. His snack choices weren't even unhealthy by typical standards. They were just ill-timed. And that's what made the danger invisible. Because the foods we trust the most, those labeled light, natural, protein-rich, can still sabotage our heart when consumed at the wrong hour. It's not about being full or hungry. It's about whether your heart gets to rest. In his case, it wasn't. Every night, those small snacks were acting like quiet saboteurs, forcing his cardiovascular system into high alert instead of letting it repair the wear and tear of the day. No symptoms screamed loud enough to stop him. There was no chest pain, no collapse, just fatigue, irritability, and occasional heart palpitations he brushed off. Until that one night, when he woke up feeling like his chest was a ticking clock. That was when he finally asked, could food, innocent, familiar food, be the reason his heart felt heavy in the morning? The deeper he dug, the clearer the answer became. And if you ever wonder why you wake up tired, bloated, or anxious despite eating clean, maybe it's not what you're eating, but because even the healthiest foods can become heart hazards when consumed too late. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. It didn't happen during a dramatic hospital scare or a public collapse. It happened in silence. At 3:11 a.m., in the middle of an ordinary Tuesday, when he woke up gasping for air, his chest tight, his pulse racing in his throat like a runaway drum, and for the first time he was afraid, not of dying necessarily, but of not knowing why his body felt like it was breaking under the weight of something invisible. He sat up in bed, sweating, disoriented, and as the panic slowly gave way to clarity, he reached for his smartwatch and saw the numbers glaring back at him. Heart rate 118, blood pressure elevated, sleep interrupted again. It wasn't a heart attack, but it was a warning. And deep down, he knew it wasn't random. Something had been brewing for weeks, maybe months. The strange heaviness in his limbs, the unshakable grogginess in the morning, the subtle pressure in his chest that came and went like a wave. His doctor had already told him that stress could play a role, that his work schedule wasn't helping, and that getting older came with natural changes in cardiovascular function. But none of that explained why his worst symptoms always happen at night. That's when he remembered, like a slow click in his memory, the conversation he had overheard in the waiting room 2 months earlier, a nurse mentioning how nighttime eating could affect blood pressure in older adults. At the time, he dismissed it, but now, sitting in the dark, listening to his own heartbeat echo in his ears, it came rushing back. What if the food, just those innocent bites before bed, was pushing his heart past its limit? The next day, he did something he had never done before. He tracked everything, not just calories or steps, but timing what he ate and when, and the pattern stunned him. Every late-night snack, no matter how small, was followed by a restless night, a spike in resting heart rate, and a feeling of tightness that lingered into morning. But here's what sealed it. The one night he skipped a snack, too tired to eat, simply brushed his teeth and went to sleep, he woke up feeling better. Not cured, not perfect, but lighter, clearer, like his body had finally caught its breath. That was the moment the connection stopped being theoretical and became personal. And so he made a decision, not dramatic, not public, but final. No more food after 8 p.m., not even the healthy stuff. He didn't expect miracles. But over the next few days, something strange began to happen. His heart rate stabilized, his energy came back, and sleep, once a battlefield, became restful again. It was like removing a weight he never knew he was carrying. And in that quiet shift, he discovered something most of us never question. The heart doesn't just care what you eat. It cares when you eat it. And for him, that changed everything. It didn't take months. It didn't even take weeks. Just 3 nights after breaking the habit, the change began subtle but undeniable. He opened his eyes before the alarm for the first time in years, and for once his body didn't feel like it was dragging through cement. No pounding heart, no morning dizziness, no strange tension in his chest, and he didn't need to sit on the edge of the bed waiting for his system to boot up. That alone felt like a miracle. But as the days passed, the surprises kept coming. His blood pressure, once bouncing unpredictably between readings, began to level out with eerie consistency. His smartwatch started showing lower nighttime heart rates, deeper sleep cycles, and fewer interruptions. His mind felt clearer, his thoughts sharper, and perhaps most shockingly, his anxiety, long attributed to work stress and aging, faded into the background like a storm that had finally passed. All from stopping a simple act he never imagined was doing harm, eating before bed. But the effects weren't just physical, they were emotional. He began to feel a kind of confidence he hadn't known he'd lost. The trust in his own body returned, and each passing day felt like proof that he wasn't broken. He had just been unknowingly pushing his heart to operate without rest. His sleep, once shallow and fragmented, now had depth. He dreamed again, something he hadn't done in years. His legs stopped twitching at night. He stopped waking up to go to the bathroom 3 times. And the daytime benefits? They were just as striking. He no longer hit that 2 p.m. wall of exhaustion. His posture improved. He stopped reaching for caffeine to stay awake. His skin even looked better, less puffy, less pale, because his circulation was improving. All this from removing food? Not exactly. It was about removing friction, removing the nightly strain on his system, so it could recover the way nature intended. His cardiologist, skeptical at first, became curious and encouraged him to continue. Eventually, even his medications needed adjusting. His resting blood pressure had dropped below the level it had been for 5 years. What he realized was this. Eating before bed was never just about calories or hunger. It was about hijacking the heart's ability to rest. When digestion steals the spotlight, the cardiovascular system can't retreat. But now, with those late-night bites gone, his heart was getting the rest it had begged for all along. And perhaps the most profound change? He no longer wanted to eat at night. His cravings disappeared, his evening mood lifted, and for the first time, food became a conscious choice, not a reflex. It was as if the fog had cleared and all the signals in his body, once scrambled, were finally coming into focus. He didn't expect this. He only wanted to feel a little better. But in choosing to give his heart space, he unlocked a level of health he didn't know was possible. And the best part? He didn't have to add anything, just stop. He thought the hard part was over. Stopping the habit, resetting his rhythm, watching the numbers improve. But what he hadn't realized was that the real challenge was still ahead. Identifying exactly which foods were silently straining his heart. Because the truth is, not all evening meals are created equal. And while skipping snacks altogether helped, it was a type of food he'd been choosing that held a real danger. And chances are, they're the same foods sitting in your kitchen right now. These aren't exotic, ultra-processed villains. They're common, seemingly innocent comfort foods that millions of people consume before bed without a second thought. We're talking about that cozy bowl of instant noodles, high in sodium, full of refined carbs that spike insulin and increase overnight blood pressure. Or that glass of warm milk with cookies, sugar plus saturated fat, a recipe for metabolic stress when your body should be powering down. Even so-called healthy choices like peanut butter on toast or Greek yogurt can backfire at night, especially for older adults whose metabolism slows and whose cardiovascular system requires off hours to recover. The worst part? Many of these foods promote a false,